Some fighters step up to the mic after a fight, thank their coaches, thank the fans, and call it a night. Others, they bleed on the mic, cry in front of the world, or say something so unhinged you wonder if they even realize they're live on ESPN. This year, we've got all three. One bared his soul and left the arena in stunned silence. One clawed his way back from the brink, then promised to haunt the division all over again. And one turned a UFC press conference into a full-blown brawl that shut the whole thing down. You know their names, you've seen their fights, but you've never heard these moments told like this. Chris Duncan, trauma, blood, and the mic drop. 15 brutal minutes. UFC Vegas 108. Chris Duncan and Mateusz Rebecki didn't just fight. They went to war. The octagon looked like a crime scene. Blood on the canvas, sweat dripping like rain, and neither man backing down. Rebecki's left eye swelling shut. Duncan's face, cuts, swelling, pure chaos. They both taken enough damage to make most people quiet 10 times over. The final horn sounds, it's over. Duncan's breathing heavy, chest heaving. The mic gets shoved in his face. Everyone expects the usual. Call out the next guy. Thank the team. Maybe yell, "Let's go!" Instead, he said this.
Pain, this is nothing. What I went through as a youngster is pain. I feel it every day. I cry on my own. See this here? This is nothing. This is superficial.
The arena freezes. No roar, no chants, just silence. This wasn't fight hype, neither was it trash talk. This was a man tearing open an old wound and showing the world, right there. Blood still fresh on his face, he tells you this war was easy compared to the wars he had fought alone. And it lands like a gut punch. Because here's the truth. Most fighters wear armor you can't see. They smile, they flex, they act bulletproof. But Duncan, he ripped the armor off and said, "Look, this is who I am." That night, the scars we saw were nothing compared to the ones we didn't. The child he spoke of, the one who cried alone, was still there, standing in the cage, but this time he wasn't hiding. It was raw, unfiltered, and it cut through the noise. In the UFC, emotion usually means adrenaline, screaming, pounding your chest, selling the next fight. But Duncan gave us something else, something heavier, the kind of honesty that doesn't trend for a day, it sticks. No theatrics, no mask, just a man who had been to hell long before the octagon, telling you the fight you just watch is easy. And that's why we'll remember this, not just for the punches, not for the blood, but for the moment a fighter used his victory, not to brag, but to speak his truth. Next up, Kamaru Usman, the boogeyman's tears. June 2025, UFC Atlanta. Kamaru Usman had been somewhere no champion ever wants to be. The wrong side of momentum. A 3-fight losing streak. For years, he'd ruled the welterweight division like a fortress. No Nigerian nightmare. The guy you avoided in matchmaking meetings. The guy whose name was said with the same hesitation you say boogeyman to a child at night. But time changes everything. The losses come. One, then another, then another. People started whispering, "Has he lost a step? Is he past his prime? Is this the end?" And fighters, they smelled blood. The aura was slipping. The man once feared was suddenly being spoken about in past tense. Then came Joaquin Buckley, younger, hungry, riding his own momentum. The perfect setup for another legend fades away story. But Usman had other plans. From the opening horn, he fought like a man possessed. Crisp jab, relentless pressure, that suffocating wrestling that made careers crumble. Buckley had moments, but Usman's control was total. By the end of 3 rounds, there was no doubt who had won. It wasn't just a victory, it was a reclaiming. When the final horn sounded, Usman didn't roar in celebration. He didn't pound his chest. He just stood there, shoulders sagging like a man finally setting down a weight he had been carrying for years. Joe Rogan stepped in with a mic. Everyone expected the usual cool, calculated post-fight Usman, the guy who talks matchups and rankings with an unshakable poker face. But what came out was different. His voice cracked just a little.
I needed to get that monkey off my back. I know I'm still able to do this at the highest level.
You could hear it, the pressure that had just been crushing him, doubt that creeps in when you're alone, the grind of training for a sport that can take more from you than it gives back. For a brief moment, the Nigerian nightmare wasn't a monster, he was human. vulnerable. The kind of honesty you rarely get from a fighter whose image has always been about dominance and control. The crowd felt it. The MMA world felt it. This was the kind of comeback that wasn't just about the scoreboard. It was about a man refusing to let his story end in defeat. But just as the air got heavy with sentiment, the switch flipped. The steel-eyed champion returned. The voice got harder, sharper.
I have been and always will be the boogeyman.
There it was. Vintage Usman. One part health-felt champion, one part pure menace. That's the essence of Kamaru Usman, a fighter who can let you see the man behind the belt just long enough for you to forget he's also the same man who will drag you into deep waters and drown you there. In a single interview, he reminded the division of two things. He's still chasing greatness, and he's still the nightmare that lurks at the top of the rankings. For the welterweight division, the message was simple. Enjoy your comfort while you can. The boogeyman isn't gone. He just took a break and now he's wide awake. Khamzat Chimaev, chaos that won't die. Technically, this one isn't from 2025. It's from 2022, but here's the thing. We're still talking about it 3 years later. That's how insane it was. UFC 279. Fight Week, Thursday afternoon press conference. The blueprint is always the same. Fighters trash talk, pose for photos. Dana White plays referee with words instead of security guards, and everyone goes home with a few headlines. That was a plan. What actually happened? The first canceled UFC press conference in history.
Trust me when I tell you this is the right decision not to do this press conference right now.
It started backstage. Whispers at first, a few shouts, then more shouts, then chaos. Security sprinting around like they were trying to break up a school brawl. Dana White's face said it all. This wasn't the usual pre-fight chest puffing. At the center, Khamzat Chimaev. Depending on who you ask, he clashed with Kevin Holland or Nate Diaz's crew or both. Honestly, by the time the dust settled, it seemed like he'd managed to go at it with everyone who had made the mistake of standing too close. Shoving, swearing, more shoving. Fighters separated like warring football hooligans. Dana White later admitted it was too crazy to even get the press conference started. And Khamzat, he looked like he was having the time of his life. But the madness wasn't done. Less than 24 hours later, the weigh-in, Chimaev stepped down the scale and missed weight by 7.5 pounds. Not just a miss, a full-blown fights-off miss. Most fighters in that moment would start damage control, apologize, blame an injury, plead for understanding. Not Khamzat. Said it like he was ordering coffee. Calm, cold, dead serious. That's the thing about Chimaev. He doesn't sell fights like other people. He is the fight. Every room he walks into feels like something about to explode. In the aftermath, people expected Dana White to bury him. Most fighters would have seen their stock nosedive after nuking a press conference and blowing a main event weight cut. But Dana? He said Khamzat's stock didn't drop at all. If anything, it went up because love him or hate him, you couldn't look away. He wasn't just a dangerous fighter. He was a walking storm cloud of unpredictability, and unpredictability sells. Now, here we are in 2025, and that UFC 279 meltdown is still part of the Khamzat Chimaev myth. The press conference that never happened, the weigh-in that turned the card upside down, the unapologetic, almost cartoonishly confident declaration that he would destroy everyone. It cemented him as more than a contender. It made him a storyline that writes itself. A fighter who's not just trying to win belts, but to keep you guessing what kind of chaos he'll bring next. 3 years later, you can still feel it. The combination of danger, menace, and don't blink energy. Fighters train for this skill set, but they can't train for the unpredictability. Because Khamzat Chimaev, the fight doesn't start when the bell rings. It starts the second he walks into the building. In the UFC, victory and defeat are only part of the story. Sometimes it's not punches, then knockouts, or even the belt that live forever. It's the moments. Chris Duncan, bleeding in the cage, telling the world his real battles happen long before the night. Kamaru Usman, shedding the weight of doubt and reminding everyone the boogeyman still walks. And Khamzat Chimaev, turning a press conference into a combat zone and proving chaos can be a brand. These are the clips that gets replayed, the quotes that get tattooed on fans' memories, the reason we keep watching. Because in MMA, it's never just about the fight you see, it's about the fighter you meet when the cameras are rolling and the truth comes out. This is the UFC, where legends aren't just made, they're remembered for the moments nobody saw coming.